Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
A bizarre night of strange creatures, lost time, and unexplained events. I have been stewing on this story for a while. This takes place in New York, Finger Lakes region, during the midsummer. It was my best friend's last day at his old house, which was filled with weird crap. I've experienced stuff there, and have a few experiences that can be boiled down to ghosts. All the way to feeling like my life was in danger, which is why I refused to spend the night there, as that was when the feeling came. So this was their last day at the old house, getting all their stuff to their new house. I was helping them that day. All I remember from that day is walking in the house and seeing the windows filled with dead flies, like more than I thought could be in a house, and then driving to their new house at night, which had to be at least 8 hours of missing time. I was confused, and I asked them, "Where are we?" I was told, "We are in Nowhere Town, on the way to the new house." I said, "But we never got the rest of your stuff." My friend's brother looked at me, concerned, and said, "Yeah, we did." "What happened?" I said, and was just told they would tell me later. This is a story best to come from their mouth, as I cannot remember. It was just 8 hours, poof, gone, and only their word on what happened. All they said was, "I was very quiet the whole time when everything went down in the house." We're driving, and noticed that there were no other cars on the road. Which is strange, as we are going through quite a few small towns, and it was still early in the night on a Friday. The little brother mentions this, and as soon as he does, a bunch of cars come around the corner. At this point, it's just circumstantial, but there will be a pattern. We keep driving, and we notice that all of the houses are completely empty, like, lights are on, but we see nothing in them. No furniture. Nothing. I mention this in Boom, next house. We notice people just standing in the window, staring at our car. We notice this in the next 3 or 4 houses. At this point, we are pooping bricks, and notice that this drive is taking way too long. They had only moved a few towns over, and this drive was taking well over an hour. It feels like we have been driving in a cornfield for a while. My friend says, "What the F is going on? We should almost be there by now." Lo and behold, the cornfield ends, and we recognize where we are again. Seeing a pattern yet? Because I didn't. And I said something that I regret to this day, "Man, what other weirdness is gonna happen tonight?" As soon as it came out of my mouth, I knew I messed up, and my friend and his brother started yelling at me, saying, "Why would I say that?" And we get into a yelling match. We never argue. My friend slams on the brakes. In front of us is what I can only describe as a big cat, like the size of a person with the head of an owl. This whatever it was has struck so much damn fear into the 3 of us. His little brother, a 20-year-old dude who played football, just started crying, and I was on the edge, like I was going insane. This wasn't making sense, and I was having a mental gymnastics show trying to figure this out. My friend just stared at it, until he said, "Someone grabbed their phone." His battery was dead from the time he was in the old house. This woke me up and I went to grab my phone, and this, whatever ran into the field, into the darkness as soon as I started pulling it out. So, we finally get to the new house. We pull in the driveway, and back into their parking space. When his brother says, "What the hell is that?" We look up and see what I can say looked like a pure white Bigfoot, crawling around like a spider. It has red eyes, and it just crawls away to the forest. We sit in the car for 45 minutes until their mother arrives. No drugs or alcohol were taken that night, well, not until after we got into the new house. The best logical conclusion I can come to is, there was a carbon monoxide leak in the old house, and we were having a group hallucination. This is by far the weirdest day of my life. I mention this now, because my friend said the new owners of the old house have a for sale sign on it. They were there for less than 2 years. I was told, they had a thriving daycare there for about 1.5 years, and then suddenly closed it down. FH.
Unexplained limping humanoid seen in western Michigan. So this all just happened less than an hour ago, and I'm still freaking out, but here goes nothing. Me and this friend of mine Mel, not his real name, usually spend our nights together around a campfire or out in the woods doing various things. Tonight we decided to go fishing out of kayaks on a river here in West Michigan. After we got on the water, it was rather peaceful. We could hear foxes and fish were coming right up to the boat. We were shooting the bull for maybe 20 minutes before we hit this bend. Mel had brought a friend we'll call Colin. Colin was ahead of us and said he could hear singing. We all stopped our kayaks and listened. Silence for 30 seconds, then all of a sudden we hear this scream. It started high pitch almost like a bell and would end in these screams of torture. We hurried our way back to shore not too long after. Now this is the part that still has me all anxiety filled. While we were loading up the kayaks into Mel's truck we could still hear this screaming. I felt like it kept getting closer. By the time everything was packed up I heard it again, this time sounding no more than a quarter mile up the road. Mel and I hopped into his truck, Colin in his, and headed home. As we were about to pull off this dirt road onto the main road, I saw on the side of the road this humanoid creature hunched over, thin long gray hair covering its face almost to its knees, and it walked with a strong, and I mean strong, limp. I freaked out and told Mel. He hadn't seen anything but he felt like all of his energy had left his body and he almost blew the stop sign we were passing. I told my fiancée 2 days ago I felt like I was going to see a creature I couldn't comprehend. And I feel it happened tonight. I'm definitely not sleeping tonight. I'd like to get to the bottom of what I saw. TR.
Large muscular creature and UFO seen in Mackinac County, Michigan. One night this past winter I was driving on I-75, a couple hundred yards south of the Bay Road overpass in Mackinac County, Michigan. I noticed something move near the highway reflectors. Thinking it was a deer I turned on the bright lights and watched for it to cross the road. As I approached it I noticed that what I thought was the reflectors on the highway were orange and then it blinked on and off like an eye. Thinking, what the heck is that? I sped up to get closer. As I got closer I could see the silhouette of the animal. It was sitting like a dog, its head was even with the reflectors. It stood on all fours and turned and walked down in the ditch, then up a little incline, then turned and looked at my truck. It turned back to the highway, walked on all fours to the shoulder of the blacktop, looked at the truck again with those orange eyes. The eyes were huge. It then jumped to within a foot or two of the center line, and then the next jump landed in the grass on the shoulder of the road. I was probably like 100 feet from it. This animal was rippling in muscles and looked like it weighed around 500 pounds if not more. Its hair which covered its body looked short and its head was huge with hardly no neck. After I passed where it crossed I hit the brakes as there were no cars on the highway and started to back up. As I got close to the spot where it crossed I suddenly felt fear and thought, what the hell am I doing? I put the truck back in drive and began to leave. As I was rolling the window up I glanced back and noticed a light, bright like a floodlight, ascending into the sky at a high rate of speed. It was at an angle of about 1 o'clock and in just a few seconds was out of sight. Something else that was strange was there were not any light rays trailing it. Name withheld.
Terrifying cryptid creature encountered along the Au Sable River in Michigan. I was hiking along the Au Sable River in Michigan during the summer of 1999. This is in the counties of Escoda, Alcona and Iosco. I remember one of my most scariest encounters with the wilderness. While walking east down along the river around 1 hour prior to dusk I heard, what to my ears to be, a wolf howl. I have seen wolf prints and seen wolves at my home in Long Lake, Michigan, but never have I heard a howl so deep and almost human-like in my life. I got spooked and set up camp and made a fire, larger than most due to my fear. At dusk I heard that the howling was getting closer, directly across the river. I had heard stories of the wolfmen from native powwows and in my family folklore covering the whole USA. But never have I personally seen what I saw that night or the next day. That night, after eating beef barley stew from my canned good collection, I lay down by the fire with my huge folding knife, closely gripped by my chest. I was watching and listening to the surrounding wood line for about 30 minutes. When the average night noises stopped, to this me meant two things. Either something had spooked the local animals, and that it made me very uneasy. I looked out away from the fire and shot the fire away from my eyes using the unarmed hand. I looked across the river, which was only about 100 meters across from my fire. That is when I saw the most unnerving sight ever. On the sand was a creature standing maybe larger than the average black bear, with black fur, large long skull and yellow reflecting eyes like the wolf. I closed my eyes and hoped I was imagining things, and then it gave out the howl again. I opened my eyes and it ran up the bank and disappeared into the night. As it ran, it didn't run on all fours like a bear nor a wolf. Unlike the local Bigfoot, it wasn't full upright like a human or primate. I was so scared that I slept the rest of that night in a damn tree about 20 foot off the ground. It took me 3 hours and praying to ease my fear so I could sleep. HN.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, It would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.